Hi everybody, welcome to another Yarn Scrap Friday with me, Laura, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to make this heart-shaped filet crocheted washcloth. So for this design you can use any yarn that you like. I do recommend using the same yarn that I recommend, purely so that your little holes in your filet crochet don't look too big. So I'm using a DK light worsted weight yarn. That's a yarn weight of 3, but you can use a worsted weight as well, that's okay. With that I'm using a 3.5mm E crochet hook. I actually think I used a 4mm with this this actual one here, so you can use any hook size really that's suitable for the yarn you're using. So a lot of the labels do tell you what size hook. If it just tells you the knitting needle size, you can use that same number for the crochet hook, so it doesn't make any difference. Okay, with that, a pair of scissors is always useful, and a yarn tapestry needle as well for sewing in any ends. That's one with a large eye at the end. Okay, so let's begin. So here I've got my little diagram, and hopefully this will help you show you how to sort of figure out your own designs as well. So what I wanted to do was create a little heart shape. So I drew a little heart shape as if it was in a grid. Now each of these little circles represents 2 stitches, and the reason that is because I was using a double crochet stitch. So in UK terminology that's a treble, and a double crochet stitch is about this height. So we need, because we want our little squares to be about the same size, so we want our little squares to be square shaped, and our stitches are this height. It had to be at least 2 stitches over to be the same length as the height of our stitch. So it's worth remembering that. So I worked out that each of these little circles represents 2 stitches across, but only 1 stitch high. So because it's a double crochet, and so I drew my little shape that I wanted, and then I coloured in a grid shape the stitches that would be the double crochets and the gaps I was leaving, and I worked it out to be 14 each unit of heart with a nice coloured in edge around, so we're not getting any hearts right next to each other. We get at least some double crochets in between the top and the bottom, left and right. Was 14 stitches wide but only 7 rows high. Okay, so we need to work to units of 14 for this little heart, and it's going to be 7 rows high because we want some double crochets at the bottom and either side, so we're not going to get any. You need to be careful not to design it so you end up with holes together for each heart. You want to have a nice bit of crochet in between. So let's work to units of 14, and I'm going to show you how to just do 2 hearts just like this in a washcloth size. So I'm going to chain to begin 28, so that's 2 lots of 14 times 2 is 28. So I'm going to chain 28. Which colour shall I choose? Let's do a green washcloth, and I'm going to do a purple trim to finish it off. So I'm going to chain 28, which is 2 lots of 14. So hopefully this is making sense. So I'm going to chain 1, 2, 27 and 28. So I've chained 28 exactly, so we get our 2 lots of 14 for our heart shape. And the first thing I'm going to do though is I'm just going to do a standard row of double crochets. But because we need to have a stitch count of 28, I need to add some stitches for the end of our chain to make sure that we get 28 double crochets. So I've chained 28, and what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to chain in an extra 2 on the end. So we're going to do our units of 14 plus 2, so an extra 2. So it becomes 29 and 30. So do your units of 14, so I did 2 times 14 to get 28, and then I added 2 chains on the end, so 29 and 30. Then what we're going to do, we're going to yarn over and do a double crochet. In UK terminology that's a treble. We're going to do that in our 4th stitch from hook, so we don't count the loop on our hook. There's stitch number 1, stitch number 2, stitch number 3, stitch number 4. Put it into that 4th chain from your hook and do a double crochet. Okay, and then what we've got is our first double crochet, and these 3 chains that we skipped at the beginning are going to count as a double crochet. So that's going to be our first double crochet, those 3 chains, and our second one, so that's 2. We're going to do 1 double crochet in each chain across. So go into the next chain and do a double crochet, 3, next chain, do a double crochet, 4, next chain, do a double crochet. I'm going to do 1 double crochet in each chain across to the end. Okay, just 1 in each. And you should end up with a stitch count of your 28, your units of 14, but you're going to have 27 normal double crochets, and your 28th double crochet is going to be those 3 chains at the end. Okay, so 1 double crochet in each stitch across. And if you're new to crocheting, you've never crocheted before, you're an absolute beginner and going a bit too fast, then I do recommend checking out my beginner stitch tutorials, which go much slower. And once you've got the hang of those, you can come back to these sort of videos. Hopefully you'll have a better idea of what's happening. 26, it's coming up to the end, 27, and the last one, 28. My tail and gets out the way. 28. Pull that tight, that's your little slip knot. So you should have a stitch count of 28, you should have 27 proper double crochets, and those 3 chains at the end are going to count as your last double crochet. So you should have a stitch count of 28. Okay, so that's our unit of 14, and now we're going to start creating our heart-shaped pattern. So the first thing to do is we're going to get up to our first hole that we're going to create. And to do that, we're going to do a chain 1. Don't count that as a stitch. So just do a little chain 1 and then turn your work. And we're going to do 1 double crochet in the first stitch. I'm going to do 1 double crochet in the first 6 stitches. Okay, the first 6. So that's 1 right in that first one. Next stitch, 2. Next stitch, 3, next stitch, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so 1 double crochet in the first 6 stitches, and then what we're going to do is create our first gap, and to do that it needs to be the same width as if it was a double crochet, and our double crochet is about 2 stitches in height. We need to make sure it's square, we're going to chain 2, so chain 2, so that looks like the same height as your double crochet, skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, then yarn over, go into the next stitch and do a double crochet. Okay, and there's our first little gap, and it's nicely squared. So it's important to, when you're designing your filet crochet, to take that into consideration. The height of your stitch, you need to make sure that the gap is the same, the chains that you do is the same height as your stitch that you're using. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do 6 the other side. So we're going to do 6 stitches the other side to finish off this heart. So that's 1, next stitch, 2, double crochet in there, I lost that one, so 1, next stitch, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and that is one of our hearts. Okay, so that's the beginning of our 1 square shaped 14 unit heart. Now we need to do the other one this side. So now we're going to do 1 double crochet in the first 6. So in total, in between, we're doing 12 double crochets. So 1, 2, I'm just dividing it up into each unit for you. 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so there's our 6 again. which is the same as the beginning here. So in the middle you end up with 12. So you've got 6 for that heart and then 6 for this heart. It's 12 in the middle. Then we need to do our little gap. So we're going to chain 2, 1 and 2, yarn over, then we're going to skip 2. So 1, 2, skip 2 and go into that next stitch. I'm going to do 1 double crochet to the end, and it should be 6 as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is going to be your last proper stitch. 5, and don't miss this one. The 6th stitch needs to be the top of your 3 chains. So these are your 3 chains that we're counting as a double crochet. Make sure to work into that top chain as neatly as you can to get your last stitch. So don't miss that one. Otherwise you'll end up with too few stitches this side of your heart. You should have 6 this end as well. Okay, so that's the beginning. Now we're going to move on to the next row. So we're going to chain 1, don't count as a stitch, and turn. And this time, following my little pattern, we're going to do, if I bring this in, so we've done, there's the 3 there. These count for 2 stitches, so 2, 4, 6, and we did our gap, 2, 4, 6. Now we're going to do 2, 4, then a gap, then 2, then a gap, then 2, 4. So we do 1 double crochet in the first 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and we should be 2 stitches away from this gap here. So we're going to create a gap here to start shaping our heart. So we're going to chain 2. You're going to skip these 2 stitches, then we're going to work 2 double crochet in this 2 chain space. So we go into this 2 chain space and do 2 double crochet, just wrapping it around the chains. So 1, just wrapping it around, 2. Okay, then we chain 2 to get the gap the other side. Chain 2, skip 1, skip 2, then the next stitch do a double crochet, and we do double crochet in the next 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's the end of our first heart unit. Okay, so you can see the shape starting to spread out either side to get our heart shape. We're going to repeat that for the heart this side. So we do 1 double crochet in the first 4. So you end up with 8 in between. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so you should be 2 stitches away from this gap. Chain 2, skip these 2, then 2 double crochet in the 2 chain space. It's much easier than working into the chains. I like to make things easier. 2, then the gap the other side, chain 2, skip 1, skip 2, then yarn over, go into the next stitch and do 1 double crochet in the last 4. So you should have 4 this side as well. 1, 2, 3. You should have proper stitches to work into now. And the last one, 4, which is always slightly on the end, curved over. Okay, so it should look something like this. Go 4, gap 2, gap 8, so divide 4 into 2, gap 2, gap 4. Okay, now we're going to move on to the next row, which is going to be 2, gap, 2, 2, 2, so it's going to be 6, then gap, then 2. Okay, so chain 1 and turn. So we do 2, 1 double crochet in the first 2, 1 and 2. Then we need to do our next gap because you see it moving over. So we're going to chain 2. Then we're going to do 2 double crochet in this 2 chain space. 1 and 2. So 2 double crochet in there. Just wrapping it around the chains. Okay. Then 2 double crochet in these 2 in the middle. 1 and 2. Then 2 double crochet in the next 2 chain space. So 2 double crochet in there. So you end up with 6 double crochet in the middle. Okay, so you've got 6 along there. Then we need to get our other gap over here. So chain 2, skip 2, and then we do 1 double crochet in the next 2. So 1 and 2. And that's the end of our first heart unit. So it looks like this. Okay, we're going to repeat that for this side. So 1 double crochet in the first 2. So it helps to think in your pattern units rather than how many to do in the middle. So 1, 2, then a gap, chain 2, 2 double crochet in the 2 chain space. Oops. So chain 2. I've had a coffee, so I think I'm feeling a bit wired. So if I'm going too fast, I'm hoping you manage to follow along. So chain 2, skip 2, 2 double crochet in the 2 chain space, 1 double crochet in the next 2. Then 2 double crochet in the 2 chain space. Yeah, it's 2 double crochet in there. Then chain 2 for your next gap. So chain 2, skip 1, skip 2, and you should have 2 stitches left. And it really helps to draw a little diagram like I have done to help you remember what you have to do and not miss any of your gaps or anything. So you should have 2 at the end, and that's the end of that one. So there we go. So we've got the basic V, the bottom V of our heart shape here. We've done those there. Now we need to start creating the top of our heart. So the next row is virtually the same, but we leave a gap in the middle because that's going to be the center of our heart. So it's the same as the row we've just done, but we're going to add a gap in the middle. So what we're going to do is, first of all, is to chain 1 and turn and do the same thing again. So we're going to do 1 double crochet in the first 2. So if I can get in there, 1 and next stitch 2. Then we do a gap again, so it's the same as this one here. So we're going to chain 2, skip the chain 2, skip this gap, do 1 double crochet in the next 2. One and 2. But this time, last time we did 2 double crochet, but we want to create a gap which is going to be the center of our heart. So we need to chain 2, skip the 2, 1, 2, and then do 2 double crochet in these 2. It should all fit together nicely. If it doesn't, then you've probably gone wrong somewhere. Okay, so we've got that center gap, and then we're going to chain 2 to create a gap this side. Chain 2, skip the 2 chains, and then we're going to do 1 double crochet in the next 2 to complete this heart unit. 1, 2. Okay, so it looks like that. You can see the shape coming together. So the next row we'll finish it off. So we repeat that again this side. So we first of all start off with 1 double crochet in the next 2. So 1 and 2. We need to do a gap, chain 2, skip the gap below and do 1 double crochet in the next 2. Then we chain 2, because we're going to create a gap for the center of our heart. Skip 2, 2 double crochet. Then we want another gap to line up with this one, so we chain 2, skip the gap below, and you'll end with 2 double crochet, 1 double crochet in the last 2. So 1 and 2. Okay, so there we go. Now we're going to finish up the heart. So we're going to do, if I bring in my little diagram, we've done this one here with the one in the center. Now we need to do 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 at the beginning, because these represent 2 stitches each. So 4, then a gap, then a 2, then a gap, then a 4. Then we're going to finish off with just double crochet to get it nice and neat. So we're going to chain 1 and turn to begin. Chain 1 and turn. 1 double crochet in the first 4, but we've got a gap. So we're going to do 1 double crochet in the first 2 proper stitches. Then we need to do 2 double crochet in this 2 chain space. Okay, so that's our 4. So you've got 4 there. Then we need to have a gap here and here. So we're going to chain 2, skip 2, 2 double crochet in the 2 chain space. Okay, that gets your gap there. Gap this side then, chain 2, into 2 double crochet in the 2 chain space. 1 and 2, and then 1 double crochet in the next 2. So you get 4 at the end. 1 and 2. So don't do any more than that. That's your 4. Okay, so that's the end of your heart unit, and there you can see your heart shape. Here we go. So we need to repeat that for the other heart, the other side. So 1 double crochet in the next 4, but the last 2 will be in the 2 chain space. So 1, 2, then in the 2 chain space, 3 and 4. Then it's a gap, chain 2, skip 2, 2 double crochet in the 2 chain space, which is in the center. 1 and 2. Then another gap, chain 2, skip 2, and then the last 4. So they'll be in the 2 chain space, first 2 in the 2 chain space, 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4 in proper stitches. So hopefully you're getting the general gist of this. And that is the end of that heart unit as well. We've got our heart shape now, so if I can put it on my hand you can see it clearer. We've got our heart shape now, but we don't want to start creating another heart shape straight away. We just want to finish off with a nice simple row of double crochet. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn. I'm going to do 1 double crochet in each stitch across, and if I hit a 2 chain space I'll stick 2 double crochet in the 2 chain space. So just make sure you've got a stitch count of 28. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I hit a gap, so I'm going to do 2 double crochet in there. 5, 6. Okay, 5 and 6, and I'm back to proper stitches. 7, 8, 9 and 10 in the 2 chain space. 10, back to proper stitches. 11, 12, 13 and 14. So that would be the end of our first heart unit. Okay, and then just do the same for this side. Okay, so that's the end of that row. So you're just doing 1 double crochet in each stitch across, and if you've got a 2 chain space gap, you need to just do 2 double crochet in there. You should have a stitch count of 28, and that is the end of the first block of your 2 hearts. What we're going to do now is we're going to repeat all of those steps, including the blank row at the beginning, and do that all again. So we're going to start off with 1 double crochet in each stitch across, and then we start our heart shape again, and you'll finish on 1 double crochet in each stitch across. Okay, so we're going to repeat all those steps again for our next 2 hearts, but to begin we're going to chain 1 and turn and do 1 double crochet in each stitch across. So repeat all those steps until you've got your other 2 hearts, and then I'll come back and show you how to do a nice trim around the edge, and then that's it really. Okay, so I've repeated all those steps, including the just normal double crochet edges, those 2 edges. I've repeated all those steps again to get myself 2 more hearts. Now I've got a nice square shaped cloth, and what I'm going to do now is we're just going to create a border to finish it off. And what I do in the same colour, so I'm going to keep with the green, is I'm going to work 1 single crochet around the edge. Now that's going to be easy at the top and the bottom because we've got sort of proper stitches there, but down the edge we don't have proper stitches, so I'm just going to work as neatly as I can some little single crochets. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to work through the double crochets like so, like that. So it's going through the double crochet rather than just around it. So try and keep your stitches as close to the edge as possible. And I'm going to work to an even number of stitches. So you don't need to worry about your stitch count. You just need to work to an even number. So I'm going to do some single crochets as neatly as I can down the edges to an even number. So 3. I'm going to go through that double crochet, so try and keep them as close to the edge as possible. 4. 5. So I'm going to do that down this edge, then I'm going to do 1 single crochet across the bottom, 1 single crochet along this edge, and then 1 single crochet across the top, and then we're going to join our next colour just to do a little picot trim. Okay, so work to an even number. Coming up to the end, back to the beginning, 27 and 28 for the bottom, like so. So if I bring that up like that, then hopefully you've got something that looks a little something like this. So I've worked 1 single crochet neatly down this edge where I didn't have stitches. I did 1 single crochet along the 28 stitches at the bottom, then 1 single crochet neatly as I can up this edge, then 1 single crochet in the 28 stitches across the top. So hopefully you've worked to an even number. Your stitch count doesn't matter, just work to an even number of stitches. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to do a little trim, if you want to, this little picot trim we've got here. And then we're pretty much done. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to join my next colour, and just going to bring that through, and I'm going to secure that with a little chain 1, which will be like a little knot. Then I'm just going to pull my tail ends, and then we can cut the green yarn. We finish with the green yarn, so I'm just going to cut that there. And now we're working with our little edging colour, and we've got proper stitches to work into now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work into my first stitch, and I'm going to do a little slip stitch, just a little slip stitch. Okay, then I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, I'm going to chain 3, and I'm going to slip stitch in the next stitch. Okay, then I'm going to slip stitch in the next stitch and repeat that. So slip stitch over, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to slip stitch in the next stitch. I'm going to slip stitch in there, and then we slip stitch over to the next stitch and do the same thing again. So slip stitch over, chain 3, slip stitch in the next stitch. Okay, slip stitch over into the next stitch, chain 3, 2, 3, slip stitch in the next stitch. And just repeat that all the way around back to the beginning. And then we'll just do a little finishing bit and then we're done. 1, 2, 3. So I shall do that and I shall come back. So you just slip stitch over into the next stitch, chain 3, slip stitch in the next stitch, then slip stitch over. Okay, so I'm just coming up to the end, so back to the beginning, slip stitch in the next stitch, and remember to slip stitch over before you do your picot, nearly forgot. 1, 2, 3, and I'm just going to slip stitch in the very beginning to join. Okay, so that's the end of my little picot edging. So hopefully you got something that looks like this. And if you want to turn this into like a little washcloth and you want to have a nice little handle to hang it onto, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a few chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll do a few more. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Let's see how that looks. Maybe a few more. 15, do about 20, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So once you've got the length of your little loop, this is about 20, I'm going to slip stitch back in the beginning again. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to thicken this up and I'm going to work some single crochets in this 20 chain loop. So I'm just going to put my hook into the 20 chain loop and then just wrapping it round, I'm going to do some single crochets. On UK terminology, double crochets. And you can work as many or as few as you like. Probably about the same as how many chains you've done. So 20, 3, 4, 5, just wrapping it around, 6, 18 and 19 and 20. So I've done 20 chains and then 20 single crochets, just wrapping it around. Then I'm going to put my hook back into the beginning and do a little slip stitch to join. And there we go. And then I'm going to cut my yarn. I'm just going to bring that loop through and then we're going to hide our tail ends. So let's get my yarn needle, thread this on. I'm just going to sew to the back, if you really have a back. Turn it over, and then I'm going to hide my tail ends in similar colours. So this is purple, so I'm just going to try and keep it in the purple trim so it hides it better. Okay, so sew as neatly as you can, trim any excess, and then do the same for all the other tail ends. So I'm just going to hide the other tail ends and then I'll come back and show you the finished little washcloth. And there we go. And there we go, I've tied in all my tail ends, so neatly as I could. And there's our little loop to hang it up with. So there's our finished little washcloth with our Heart Filet crochet pattern. So hopefully you've managed to follow along. Hopefully as well I've given you some tips on how to design your own little filet crochet pattern. But until next time, I'll see you soon for some more crochet fun. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye. I think I prefer it in white though.